All right. So tonight I'm going to let our presenter present himself. He's got a really great slide, and basically he is the John Horodyski. He's the advisor that can help students with the advanced certificate in digital asset management. And so what we're going to be talking about tonight is not just the certificate, but also digital asset management and where it is today and where it's going in the future. He has an expertise on this topic, so it should be a really informative webinar for us in that area. All right, turn controls over to you, John.
All righty, so let's see if it works. Always good to have a technical few seconds to ensure that it does work. So I got the handoff, and I see it does work. All right. I'll just use that button to move up or down. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is John Horodyski. I'm one of the adjunct faculty here at San Jose State University. Tonight, we're going to be talking about digital asset management, and obviously a good section at the end to have Q&A from all of you who may ask questions more about digital asset management. Before I get to a biography on myself, what we're going to do tonight is obviously a little quick welcome. We're going to talk about what is DAM, talk about the business case for digital asset management, some of the DAM foundations, how do you do it, they're key. Digital asset management as technology, how do you actually select the tech? Obviously some good DAM best practices, the future of them, and then we'll talk a little bit about the DAM certificate at San Jose State. So that's the agenda for tonight. I'm going to advance, and I lost the slide. On me. There you go. So that is myself, John Horodyski. In addition to being an adjunct faculty at San Jose State, I'm actually a partner at a firm by the name of Optimity Advisors. We're a large global consulting firm, and I'm responsible for what is known as the information management practice, also consumer brands. And my practice deals with things like digital asset management, content strategy, metadata and taxonomy design, content management, governance, rights management, all those good fun things to do with content. I've been doing digital asset management now for over 17 years. I've been very fortunate to have worked with multiple companies around the world, Fortune 50, 100, 500 companies in a variety of industries. I am a librarian and an archivist. I have 2 master's degrees from the University of British Columbia in beautiful Vancouver, Canada. So I have a librarian degree and an archival degree. And I do a lot of public speaking around the world in terms of metadata and digital asset management. I publish a monthly column in CMS Wire online, and 2 years ago, authored a book about digital asset management. And if you take my course, you get to read the book, so that's also fun, I guess. And located in Vancouver, Canada, but most of the time you can either find me in New York City and or Los Angeles, just working with clients, and we have offices there. So that's a little bit about myself. Again, librarian archivist. I've been teaching the course at San Jose State now for over 12 years. Very cool, lots of fun. I've seen many of my students go on to fun DAM careers in big media companies, in publishing companies, in consumer brands companies. So it's always fun to see the students graduate and get to go other places. So that's fun. So that is me. I'm now gonna begin the formal presentation with, so what is DAM? What is digital asset management? Well, DAM does consist of the management tasks and technological functionality surrounding all the good things around the ingestion, annotation, cataloging, storage, retrieval, and distribution of rich media assets. Those things such as photographs, graphics, animations, videos, all those things that we need in business operations and our marketing operations. Now, DAM is often referred to as the system, that is the technical system that you purchase the hardware and software to run it, but it is actually more than just the technical system. It's actually about the people, the process, and the technology, and hopefully from this presentation tonight, you're able to understand a little bit more about that. And then lastly, I just want to let you know that digital asset management was actually born out of the publishing industry about 25 years ago. And it has evolved very well to be a critical tool for marketing operations, something known as marketing technology as well, in all industries beyond publishing, things like the media business, movies and TVs, consumer packaged goods, consumer brands, pharmaceutical industries, all those places where we need to manage digital assets, and usually marketing-based digital assets. And that's a little bit of the history of DAM. And I'll move on. Again, a little bit further into the detail of what is DAM. A wise friend and educator who taught me in library school once said that there is a place for everything and everything is in its place. And that's not only true, but an absolute necessity when you're dealing with rich media and the graphics that we work with today in all our businesses that in different industries. There's images, videos, graphics, 3D models, and whether they're born digital or transformed to digital, they're all competing for attention in a multi-distribution network. People are always looking for assets, the best access to them. And we need to be able to take an asset and change it into different formats and then deliver it to television, to mobile, print, social media, many different ways, and with various degrees of metadata attached to those assets. So DAM not only involves the stewardship of digital assets or content, that is their everyday care and feeding, plus their long-term preservation, but also managing the people and activities that interact with those assets. From IT staff to all users, past and present, keeping a record of what's happened to those assets and how they will be used for future use. In addition, DAM does consider such things as long-term preservation in the sense that keeping assets and sometimes for archival purposes beyond the immediate use of what an organization may be looking for. So to close that out, what is DAM? What I wanted to introduce with this slide, that the decision to do a digital asset management system is a very good positive step in gaining control of your intellectual property and your digital assets. Now, to do DAM, it does bring great responsibility in terms of how you manage your daily operations. It's more than just the sum of its parts. You need to be able to have a detailed review of things such as workflow, security, and metadata attached to all those assets. The unique thing about a DAM is that it can serve as what people refer to as the single source of truth for an organization, preventing unauthorized distribution or confusion about versioning. Reliability becomes more important as formats are all over the place with new technologies and as the demand increases around platforms. So instead of sitting on shared drives or network locations where there is no search and there is no security and obviously no metadata, a DAM becomes a valuable tool for any organization looking to manage its content, its brand more effectively, ensuring that the right asset is being used by the right person at the right time for the right reasons. So we're going to move on now to talk a little bit about the business case. Why are organizations looking to do digital asset management? So as I sort of hinted at before, the value of DAM is that it provides accessible discovery, organization, workflow, and security for your assets and for your brand. So do you think you need a DAM? Well, why is it that you might need to be able to manage those things? So what I want to relay in this slide is to consider some things of what a digital asset management can do for an organization. So obviously, supporting any sort of strategic organizational initiatives such as the reduction of costs, the possibilities to generate new revenue opportunities, the ability to improve market or brand perception, as well as even compliance considerations. Obviously, a digital asset management will be able to improve collaboration and streamline creative workflow for all the creative production needs, whether it's creative services or a marketing organization. They're looking for better opportunities to collaborate. A DAM was able to better manage the brand with marketing campaigns on a regular or seasonal basis. And a DAM can enable more marketing agility to be what is known in the marketing world as operational excellence. Now, because the demand for assets is very strong in this modern world of multimedia and rich media graphics, digital assets are being used in all different ways in design, production, and distribution. So in order to have better brand and market position, the technology to support these things are essential, and that's what digital asset management can do. It's that power for an organization to, as I said earlier, to have the right people to be empowered to make those changes and be strategic for an organization going forward. So those are some things to consider if you're trying to understand some of the reasons as to why a business case is needed to have digital asset management. So that being said, if the decision is made, we do need a DAM, and digital asset management is priority for us, what are the foundational elements that you need in order to do DAM? Well, there are 7 that I would like to introduce to you, and if you do take the course, this is part of it, that you will learn more about these. They are things like rich media collections, a better understanding of what metadata and taxonomy is, workflow, rights management, digital preservation, user experience and user interface, UX, UI, as well as governance. So while it's commonly known that technology should never lead the decision-making process for DAM, it's the business that sets the foundation for the strategy first. Technology is incredibly important, and the vendor review and selection process is a critical step, but this must follow the business requirements of the digital strategy. I've seen over the years where many people will jump right to the purchase and or selection of technology, but I can tell you it is far better to take the time at the beginning to understand a little bit more about the business wants and how they want the DAM to work, what are the needs of the users of the DAM. By having that begin your foundation, then you can work through these 7 things going forward. So what I want to do now for these next few slides is to walk through each one of these foundational steps and just provide a little bit more context for you. The first one is a rich media collection. That is the understanding at a very visceral level of what are your digital assets. What are you trying to manage in your organization? Is it such things as videos? Maybe it's graphics. Maybe it's interactive documents. Maybe it's just documents in itself. One thing we always recommend doing is to perform a content audit and discover what you have, where it is, of course, how much you have of it, but then also ask why you have these things, what are you trying to do with them? Is the digital asset management system a work in progress, or is it for all final published assets, which is more of an archival function? Or perhaps you need the digital asset management system to do both. You have to start considering these things when you look at your rich media collection to understand what the DAM could be doing for you and your organization. So that's the first one. The second one is, I will click. Try to click. Aha, whoopsie daisies. It's metadata and taxonomy. Now this is probably my favorite part of doing digital asset management, and having done this for 17 years, I can tell you the demand for librarians who understand metadata is at an all-time high. I can't keep hiring enough. Every second thing I hear from potential clients is metadata. What is it? How do I get it? What do I do with it? So metadata and taxonomy are very not only just important for digital asset management, but as an industry professional thing to consider, metadata is a very good thing to have. So that being said, metadata and taxonomy are incredibly important imperatives for anyone looking to manage and exploit as content in all shapes or forms. Now, metadata at a very basic level is the descriptive, administrative, and structural data that defines your assets. In a clever way, someone might say it's the data about data, and that's absolutely very true. It provides the foundation and structure needed to make all your assets more discoverable, more accessible, and therefore more valuable. So metadata will make your assets smart assets. Some people say it's a snapshot in time, and to which I do agree to, because metadata is something that evolves over time, and what you may have now is maybe different in a few years. Language changes over time. New words are being added to the lexicon on a regular basis. New products are being created. Our language is always changing, and the one way to manage that change is with good metadata and governance to help you go forward. So the second part of this is taxonomy. Now, I'm sure many of you are familiar with that term, maybe with some of your other classes. Taxonomy is the science of classifying information into groups or classes that share similar characteristics. And the way to organize information so as to best solve a business problem is by having a well-designed taxonomy, bringing business processes into alignment that allow users to, I would argue, intuitively navigate to the right content. So while metadata provides the foundation and structure needed to make your assets more valuable, Taxonomy provides that consistency and control that allows the dam to be that single source of truth and to be a key enabler for enable to find content and to make it more findable and effective for users. It's one of the most important things of the foundational steps is to understand the metadata and taxonomy part. All right, let's go to the third one, which is another fun topic, potentially not as popular as metadata and taxonomy, but certainly something that is very valuable to understand, and that is workflow. So the key to good workflow is understanding what are the issues involved in identifying, capturing, and ingesting assets within a dam, and then making those assets accessible and available for retrieval. DAM may often be understood as a workflow device to assist in marketing operations or business operations critical to your organization's needs. Now, a DAM can not only serve as the central source of truth for your assets, but it also can serve as what I would like to argue as the infrastructure of the dam, the workflow or source of connectivity upon which assets may be moved around from creation to use and distribution. So you have to ask yourself, is there a workflow process in place? Are there methods and mechanisms within the organization to understand who creates something and when they create it, where does it go and who uses it, and follow that through from the beginning to the end on the life cycle of an asset. So determine how a dam will accommodate your project. It's important to think how and when data is being created and modified in your projects, and then think about how this data is going to move through the other projects. Obviously, a dam may be integrated with other systems within the organization, such as a content management system, perhaps, or a web system, maybe even archival systems. How is that workflow affecting not only the dam, but its integration with other systems? And my final comment on this is that metadata is very much associated with workflow because you're able to map assets with metadata and then see how workflow may proceed through the organization as it goes through the life cycle. The next one that I want to share with you all is on rights management. Now, this is something, if you're not familiar with rights management or licensing, you need to start learning those phrases as much as possible, because rights management is all about what can I do with this, and how am I able to use it, when am I able to use it, and what are the rules behind those things. So rights management provides a company with the ability to track the rights for the content that it has, for content that it might have licensed, or the rights to the content that it has given to a licensee. There must be serious consideration of any legal issues associated with your assets, as it demands understanding of what they are and how they may be used. No technology is going to purely solve all of the rights management issues, but it's up to the business to start asking the right questions. The more rights management is based on efficient information flow and integration, the faster and more effective the company will be in protecting their content and potentially even monetizing that content that has either sold, bought, or licensed. So if you take a look at your content, do you know if you have license for these things? Do you have the permission to use this image? Is this image for the web? Is this image only for print? Can you reuse a song in a certain situation? I don't know, but this is something, the questions that you would have to start thinking about when you look at your assets. The second bullet there about the regions, that's even more important as we are now working in a global, more of a global situation in many of our companies. Can you use something in Canada? Can you use it in the United States? The same asset? Does it need to be translated? Are there certain concerns that you would have to think about with the United States versus another country in terms of cultural or religious differences? When you think about rights management, you need to be thinking about all those types of issues of, we would like to refer to as permissions. You know, how do you define what can you do with something, who can see it, what they can do with it, etc. The other one I wanted to mention to you is concerns around compliance. Now, many organizations need to have metadata and certain rights associated with their assets, so they are able to comply with legal restrictions that perhaps something like the FDA or other federal bodies are sort of pushing onto the assets in terms of they must comply in certain situations. If you're not familiar with the GDPR, which was just enacted earlier this year in the European Union, You might have heard of other sort of privacy laws and privacy issues happening in the United States and Canada. These are things that librarians are being brought into more and more often because we, again, not only do we understand how to manage content, probably the best in any one society, but understanding the privacy considerations for these things and the personal usage of data and compliance for those types of issues. So again, when you look at a digital asset management, always be considering what are the rights behind the assets that you have. The next one that I wanted to bring to your attention is all about digital preservation. So the questions asked that when you look at your content is, are some of these assets, are these even worth preserving beyond the workflow cycles and the sort of immediate or short-term needs? Do I need to keep this? And if I do, why is it? And sometimes in regards to archival or sort of preservation sentiments, the question is asked, are some of these worth preserving beyond the current cycle? And that means, do I consider these things to be stored in a repository beyond the needs now? And if so, perhaps that might be needed for something more of an archival DAM as opposed to a work in progress DAM. That is thinking, I need to keep this asset in perpetuity for either legal reasons, cultural, whatever the appraisal needs would have demanded for keeping something going forward. And you know what? And there might be really good reason to organize things in an archival system going much beyond what they need now. But it behooves you to take the time at the beginning to better understand your assets. So you're thinking, do I need this now? Or do I need this for a sort of future vision or whatever reason to keep these things? It's a step that's often missed with people. So I always include this to have people just very, very cognizant of being aware of what the needs are for the future as well as for the immediate needs. The next one, the sixth foundation, is all about the good things of user experience and the user interface. I'm always very aware of reminding people of the ability to consider the user experience of using a digital asset management system. Is it good? Is it allow you to tag assets easy? Are the abilities to search assets okay? How do you download? It's most often that people, when they purchase something like a DAM or any sort of content management system for that matter, they just take it and really don't consider the implications of, does it work well? How does it look like? Do I like the screens? Are there better drop downs? Could I use radio buttons, etc.? And that's something that, for some reason, even the technology providers themselves don't do a good enough job on. But what we have seen over the last 10 years is that more and more providers in the DAM space and other technology providers are looking at seeing a better interface and a better user experience. We do know that the better the user experience it is, that user adoption for these systems rises higher. So better looking UI, better ability for people to upload and download and search equals stronger user adoption and more satisfaction with the project. So again, always be considering how your users will want to work with these things. And the best way to do that is simply go talk to your users. I've seen, having done this for over 17 years, I've seen where organizations have missed the step and they don't actually go talk to the people and say, what works for you? Are you keyword search people? Are you long form writing people? Do you like taxonomies that expand and close? I don't know, but the question is, go ask your users to see what they like. And I think the better one can talk to their users and better understand their needs, the better the DAM will be. The last one that I wanted to include is step number 7, which is governance. Now, governance is a great thing. I potentially might repeat myself a few times here, and I won't apologize for that because I'm a big fan of governance. I think governance is a good thing. I think I made a quote a year or two ago online that governance is no longer an option because, again, we've seen where digital asset management systems have failed because of people not governing it properly. And that is just governance being that framework to ensure that program goals are being met. What are the rules of the DAM? How do we know that things are being happening? How do changes get made? How do people provide feedback to the digital asset management system? You need that governance model to be able to provide you with those things. Now, obviously, governance can begin with a roadmap and even measurement tools to ensure all that success for implementation during the first iteration, but then as it grows, you can have the governance become somewhat of an operating model for the business. And again, these, from the beginning, it can include things such as a project charter, a working committee, and even timelines. But the goal is to have governance be an ongoing practice that could potentially translate into an operating model. And then I wanted to include in this slide for you that the building collaborative capabilities requires both buy-in and participation from the top of the organization. So there are people who will be using this on a day-to-day level, but you do need executive or senior management buy-in to really have this be effective. You're looking for a solid ROI, or otherwise known as return on investment, around this. And active governance does deliver and can be sustained success for you by allowing senior management approval and senior management buy-in from their level, but then as that will trickle down to all levels of the organization. So my advice is get those big names involved in the big decisions and keep them talking about DAM. Make sure that digital asset management is on the tip of their tongues. Start having metadata Mondays or taxonomy Thursdays. Get them realizing the power of what managing your assets can be for them. And they will, and I have seen this, they will see the power of what that can be. So get down and get that governance going so that people at all levels of organization can be involved and see the excitement. DAM, I always argue, is not a project. A project by definition has a beginning and then it has an end, which means it's going to stop. But DAM is not a project, DAM is a program, which means it's going to keep on going. And there will be people behind it and financial budgets behind it. It'll evolve. And that's a good thing, if not a great thing. But you need to be able to treat it in that way in terms of calling it a program so that people understand what it is and how they can understand it in the context of the organization. So those are the 7 foundational steps that I like to include for digital asset management. What I wanted to do in this slide when I talk about an ecosystem is just to make you realize that digital asset management is part of many other things, and sometimes it's referred to as the marketing technology stack, short form being MarTech, but DAM is part of an ecosystem within the corporation. Ecosystem is a term that has become favorable in the last 3 to 5 years. More and more organizations are saying this word, ecosystem, and all they're trying to get by this is that DAM is a part of many things. It could be part of, again, as I said earlier, agency work. It could be part of social media management. It could be part of creative design work for the web and other avenues. It could be involved with campaign management, marketing data warehouse. It could be even part of analytics and customer relation management. The point being, though, make sure you're thinking about DAM as part of that bigger place within the ecosystem. And if you can do that, you'll have far more success in selling the vision, creating the vision, but then having DAM become an integral part of that ecosystem. The next thing I want to talk then about is, so now that we understand a little bit more about digital asset management, so how do you actually select it? Like, how do you get that technology? What are the things you need to consider? So a key success factor in all DAM programs is obviously you want to choose the right system to be able to serve what you're trying to do. Now, your organizational goals may be to deploy a system that's going to see assets go from production through workflows, and you want to have them secure from the beginning to end. But you want to understand what is the combination of these things and how do they affect you? What are those sort of ideas on what is the organization trying to achieve with the technology? Now, when I do this and within the class and when I do this in work, you want to be able to see 3 things very carefully. What are the requirements? Have a very effective request for proposal, which is an RFP, otherwise known as, and then system demonstration. So taking the time to go to the business, as I said earlier, talk to the users. Who is the DAM for? Is it for marketing? Is it for IT? Is it for corporate archives? Not sure, but let's go talk to those users. What do they want? And how they want to work with it? Is it, then again, is it for video? Is it just for maybe graphics and marketing collateral, but not video. So go take the time at the beginning to really do a good requirements gathering process. The second thing then is a good RFP, or a request for a proposal. Make sure it's well written. You tell the vendors based upon those requirement gatherings, what do you want? What do you need it to do? Get some use cases in there. For example, marketing department needs to find videos in Europe and reuse them for a North America campaign. That's a great use case to show a digital asset management system and then see if they can answer those questions. And once you then get to the point of having an RFP and asking a few vendors to help potentially be a part of this process with you, you want to have some effective system demonstrations. And that may well mean if you've maybe selected 3 or 4 dams that you kind of like, you would then invite them to come in and show the system, kick the tires, having them show you a live example of what the dam would look like. Maybe you could have them put your own assets in and see how it would look in terms of a workflow or how to search or how to download. But get the technology people to show you how it is as opposed to just telling you on a piece of paper, on an email. It's very good to have that demo and to have that demonstration for you and your users. My closing thought on this is obviously determine what is the dam for, who is it for, and then again, why you need it. And if you can do that and do those good 3 steps, you're gonna have a good looking process to get you your dam. So what are some good best practices? It's a common thing I'm always asked for, or clients are always asking for, and what we're trying to do with something like best practices is people are always looking for these quick little bites, sound bites, little things. What are the types of things they need to know that will make them a better dam or have a better dam experience? So as I said earlier, the understanding that dam is not, it's a program, it's not a project. It's gonna be ongoing, it's gonna evolve. There's power behind that, not only understanding it, but having your executives realize that it's a big initiative. There's people behind it, there's money behind it. This is a program. It takes time and it takes some maturity in terms of business process to get this going. The second one is content is no longer the king. The user is always worthy. Now there's a very well-known expression of content is king, and I do believe that. Content is a great thing, but I do believe that the users are an incredibly important part of the kingdom. And if you don't talk to your users, you're gonna get it wrong. So again, content's great, but you better go talk to the people because they have a very big say in this, and make sure they're being talked to and understood. Third one is sort of a trickle onto this one is ensure that you're building this for the right users. As I hinted at before, I've seen people build dams literally for the wrong group of people because they did not take the time to consider who is this for. Marketing is potentially somewhat different than corporate archives as it could be different from IT. So go figure out who this dam is for and make sure you're building it for the right person and group of people. Next one is user experience and user interface, as I sort of hinted at before. How do your customers want to interact with the content before you even get the dam? What kind of experiences do people like? You know, let's talk about that. Let's have people do design workshops and just creatively put on, you know, sticky notes or on white paper, boards, sticky on the wall. Start talking about, you know, what is that experience going to look like? What are people looking for? Are there apps they like? Are there websites they like? This is a time to start saying, oh, I really love this. I wish it could be like that. Because you can configure some of these dams to give you those types of experiences. So again, get the users involved, get them being creative on those user experiences that they would like to see. The next one is go slow. This is an incremental process. Let's make sure that we do this in small steps. We don't go too fast. We get small, we go in small chunks and get big wins and then go slowly and keep on getting bigger and bigger as we go along. So you want to make sure that each step of the way we're identifying the users and processes that are enabled you to not only identify the needs now, but then over time grow and grow and grow. The next one is an interesting one because I'm trying to get the word curate back in our language as much as possible. And that is just don't collect, curate. Collecting is easy. You get things, you put them in a place, and you make them available. Curation is a little bit more than that, and I like curation because it means there's a little bit more work involved, that we can take content and put it into different places and make it more meaningful to certain people. the work that the metadata team is doing at Netflix is a great example of this, because they're adding new keywords, they're making new categories, because they're seeing the value of taking the content and making just a little bit more meaningful. And I think people in digital asset management, whether you're the digital librarian or the digital asset manager, there's a great opportunity here to be more curatorial as opposed to just a collection. The next one is DAM is a human endeavor. I'm a big, passionate believer that while DAM is amazing and the technology is great, you need people behind it. I'm one of the biggest advocates of a digital librarian and the belief and the opportunity for librarians to be involved in this. I published an article, I think it was 3 weeks ago now, on CMS Wire saying something to the effect of, if you want a DAM and you want to do it right, hire a librarian. They're the best thing you'll ever get. They know what to do. They know how to do it. They can manage this better than anyone else. And I'm very proud to be a librarian and archivist, and I love seeing many of my students go on to good DAM careers because they are the ones that know how to manage content better than anyone else. The next one is to achieve maturity in stages with feedback loops, user testing, and evaluations. Time and time again, I see organizations who just forget to do this step, and that is taking the time, whether it's quarterly or biannually. You set those mechanisms up, but go and get feedback. Make sure there's an FAQ button or a help button on the page somewhere. Go make sure that you're regularly testing out, how does it look like to download? Tagging assets with metadata, is it good, is it positive? Give people the ability to tell you what's going on. And I'm a big fan of both in-person, you can use Survey or Monkey, whatever you need to do, but get people telling you qualitatively as well as quantitatively. Get that feedback so you can understand what's going on. This one is an interesting one, except that it won't be perfect. It's hard because many of us would like to see perfect and perfection, but sometimes these things are not always going to be perfect. DAM is, just like metadata being a snapshot in time, it's going to improve. It's going to be really, really good. It's going to be amazing, and it's going to keep improving itself. But it's not always going to be perfect because nothing's perfect. Content and language and all these things are going to be changing, so we're going to be evolving with the users and evolving with the products and evolving as all these things go through forward. And then finally, a big believer in change management. And change management is a good thing, but make sure that you do have an active stakeholder group. You have champions. DAM champions are great in an organization. She or he who signs checks and gives you more staff when you want them. Make sure you're socializing the DAM. You don't just push a button and launch it. You need to socialize it, evangelize it, go sell DAM. One of the best things you could ever do for your DAM is to give it a name. And having done this for 17 years, I've seen the research that has shown that the DAMs that are named do far better. So give it a fun name. Find a name within your company, whatever makes sense for you, but give it a fun name. Don't just call it DAM. That seems rather boring. Give it something fun. Make it meaningful to the people in your organization. Again, user satisfaction, keep on letting the users be involved in regular training and or evaluation techniques. Never, ever forget to do the training. I've seen larger organizations that will do DAM training on an annual basis. And what they'll do is have that built into HR systems. So if you do DAM training every year or copyright training, any of these types of things, you sort of get like a check mark in a box somewhere that says, yeah, they did this, they're part of the program. And I think that's a really positive thing to be doing with DAM. The last one is managing system updates. Obviously, when you get a piece of technology like a digital asset management system, you're going to get upgrades over time. You might not get in, you might want to wait for the next upgrade depending on certain situations. But you always want to make sure when you do those things, you tell your users in advance, hey, we're going to go for an update. The system will be down for an hour. When you see it again, here's what it's going to look like. Never ever surprise your users. Try and give them as much heads up as possible to let them know the good things that are coming their way. So those are some best practices that I think are valuable to share. What I want to sort of finish off with here is, so what is the future of DAM? Where is it going? How does it look? So obviously, as I said earlier, DAM, it's both a process involving the management tasks and decisions, but it's also a technological system to manage your assets. Content drives the brand. So creative professionals, they're all working in marketing, communications, operations. They're all looking for content, and they want to be remaining competitive as they do this and delivering what consumers want when they want it, and where they want it. So DAM sort of embodies that a little bit of what I like to call agility in an agile world. DAM can provide that for you. And DAM is that right step to manage your assets going forward. Now, DAM brings with it a lot of responsibility for how an organization will manage those assets effectively and efficiently. And DAM, as a single source of truth in the organizations, will help you quantify as well as qualify the value of those assets through discovery, use and reuse in all those daily operations, whether it's in marketing or business. DAM will help you with that. And again, DAM as an implementation, as a piece of technology, it's just more than that. It is going to be more than the technology. It's about the people, and it's about the process, and it's all about having that good strategy for you. Now, more than ever, DAM is a part of that ecosystem, so my wishes to people considering digital asset management is to think beyond that and be within the ecosystem itself, but also ensuring that the DAM is connected within those other parts of it, whether it's the web systems or archival systems. Make sure DAM is a part of it in that ecosystem, so you're able to be providing a good digital strategy foundation for your organization. So then this leads me then into the next few slides, which is very specific because I think many of you on this webinar might have some interest in what DAM can be. And I think, the DAM certificate is one of those areas to really be, is that something you want to consider to have going forward? So you may know that there is an advanced certificate in digital assets and services within the university. With this certificate, you and other information professionals will have those skills needed to be involved in this type of DAM work and other sort of digital work, because you are understanding what digital is, what Web 2 or 3.0 is. You're thinking of user-generated content. You're thinking about how content is being made accessible to everyone. Now, there are some benefits and requirements to consider I want to talk about on the next slide. So if you are a special session student, you can earn both your master's degree, both in the MLS. You can also have the MARA side of that as well. If you are a regular session student, you might want to take advantage of this opportunity and switch over to get some of the other stuff. You'll get in courses such as mine on digital asset management. You're going to have courses on things like information governance and security. You'll also have things on data analytics and data-driven decision-making, which is such a great, not only topical point of reference, but these are real things that are real jobs that real people are looking for right now. So I'm a big fan of this certificate. And I think that's the end of what I was going to talk about, but I know I'm open to as many questions, and I think, do we open it up to questions now? How do we do this?
Yes. So
yes.
Let's just open it up to questions. So if you have a question, you can feel free to grab the mic, or you can also pop it into the chat box.
Do I get to see the chat box or no?
You can if you go to your little, taskbar. I think there's a more button, and you can press chat, and it should pop up there for you.
Okay. But I'm available for questions.
Yes, or if anyone wants to grab the mic, that's fine too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have one, actually. So I was interested in what you said about marketing, and when thinking about digital asset management, I've always thought about it in sort of like in archives, because those are digital assets in many libraries. Mm-hmm. But what you said about marketing is really interesting because, for example, with certain brand logos that might be fluid, that might change. You could have a digital asset management system that could house those sorts of digital assets and could be changed so that people know how to use them. And so I was just wondering if you had any other examples of in marketing how digital assets might.
Absolutely. And in fact, the greatest place you see digital asset management in an organization is most often within the marketing department. So usually the CMO or a digital marketing director, someone in that place would be the ones that would initiate and instigate a DAM program. And you're absolutely correct. The logos are there. Many of our clients, it's exciting to see, you know, here's our logo from 10 years ago, but here's our new logo now. There are some well-documented cases in the media where people have used the wrong logo at the wrong time, which equals a lawsuit. That's not fun. But dams are filled. One of the big areas of a dam is usually the brand area, which turns into things like the logos, the marketing materials, the video that went to air, the video that went to air in the UK, the video that went to air in the United States. Again, slightly different. The names change. You know, in America, it's called Diet Coke, and in Europe, it's called Coke Light. Who knew? Well, it's a big difference. And if you show Diet Coke to someone from the UK, they'll be like, what? So it's kind of fun to play around with these assets on a global scale as well, which I hinted at before. And certainly marketing departments having the dams, they get to play with all the fun, good brand content, which is really exciting. You get to see a lot of fun stuff in there, for sure.
Interesting.
Hey, Professor, I have a quick question.
Hey, who's this?
This is Stephanie Acow. I took your
Hey.
class last year, I think.
I know you.
I was just wondering, on average, when you arrive at a company who is either looking to completely change their digital asset management system or say they're getting one for the first time, how long does the process usually take before they're sort of handling it on their own and you're able to step away?
Oh my gosh. Great question. I hate to say it depends because that's a bad answer, but it kind of depends. The more mature the organization, the timeline will reduce. A more mature organization, by that means in terms of large departments, more mature processes involved with that, the better they will able to be to close that timeline down. Organizations that may have the house is not clean, assets are everywhere, no one knows anything, I don't know the rights, I'm not even sure why we have these things. It'll take a little bit longer for them just because they don't have a mature system and mature governance models in place. When I talked about governance, it's one of the biggest failures of DAM is not having good governance involved. So the more mature those organizations are, the better they will be able to respond to that. I don't know, did I answer that question properly, or did that give you...
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
It was interesting to hear about the organizations, how some are very organized and some are really...
Yeah, and sometimes I'm even surprised when I walk into some of these, I will not name their names, big companies. They are some of the most common things you hear is, I can't find my stuff. And it's like, wow, really? To the point of now, after 17 years, I'm not even that surprised anymore. But, you know, internally, I'm like, wow, really? But it's just a thing. Think of it. You're a big company, multiple thousands of people everywhere, multiple departments, and the ease of access of right-clicking the internet is an easy way to get something, and that's just wrong. But if you think of the scale of these types of companies, you just sometimes just can't find everything because they're just not being organized. Now, we as librarians, we're the ones that do this because we're, you know, it's part of our DNA to organize. And again, the power of the librarian in that context is incredible because people just go, oh, you can do it. And not only can we do it, we can do it really well. And it's pretty amazing.
Question, if that's okay.
Yes,
Sure.
Hello.
Hi, my name is Kim Regan. I'm in my first semester of the MLIS program.
Oh, congratulations. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. I'm definitely interested in digital asset management, and it was really good to hear your overview and just the need for this role to be a champion within companies. I was wondering if you could give examples of what like an entry-level like position, someone starting out in DAM, like what kind of roles would that play? Just curious.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And it's most common to have those first sort of entry roles in DAM to be either a digital librarian role or a senior metadata analyst. So someone involved in the administration of the DAM from a level of stewardship of the assets, which is more of the librarian role, but also equally she or he who would be working very closely managing the content and the metadata around it. So who's going to manage the metadata model for the company? Who's going to ensure that if a new product is made, that the new entries and the keywords are being added on a regular basis? The metadata librarian or the digital librarian would also be in charge of the training around the digital asset management system. So those beginning first roles are actually quite amazing. They're quite fun. And I'm very happy to have seen many of my students and other students from other library schools around the country get those types of roles immediately because they're librarians. People, even at a senior level, they get it, and they're excited when they see librarians do this because they understand it. And as I said earlier, that powerful word of metadata, it's the most requested thing I hear right now is metadata, and librarians get it. They know what it means. They know how to describe something in terms of description and administration and technical stuff. It's a powerful tool, and if you can be in a setting where you can say those words and understand them and say things like Dublin core and not giggle, although I often do, it's a great thing, and I love seeing librarians take over the damn world. I think it's our place to shine. So yeah. Did that help out? Or?
Yeah, great. Thank you. That
awesome.
was really helpful.
Thank you. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions? All right. Well, it looks like we might not have any more questions. Thank you so much. That was a really great overview of digital asset management and everything, the certificate and everything.
Thank you. And I guess my contact information is available somewhere on the, I guess it's not on this, that's my work address there, but it is available on the university site.
I think you're on the faculty list.
Yeah. So if anyone has any questions afterwards, by all means, please feel free to contact me. More than happy to speak to you on the phone, answer your questions on email. Again, I've been doing this for a long time. I love this, and I love seeing the students from San Jose State get some fun jobs out of this. This is, it's all gone. It's all good.
I just popped a link into the chat box. This is a link to a survey for the students, just to get your feedback on the events, the webinars, what you thought, what you'd like to see in the future for our events. So your feedback is really helpful. And I think that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great night, everyone. Good luck with your last few weeks.
Thanks.
I know what it's like. Good luck.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.